Welcome, 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 and thank you for spending some of your time with us. My name is Tina Rosenquist, and this is Knowledge for Wellness. And this show is to better inform you, because the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. And knowledge is power. And today's topic is on colon hydrotherapy. And bringing us this great information is Kristen Burrich and Barbara McIntyre. And they are the owners and developers of Healing Within Wellness Center. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And Barbara?
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for having us.
Oh, this is just great that you guys could come on Knowledge for Wellness and educate my viewers on this subject. I know it's not a subject a lot of people like to talk about, but it is very important to the body's function.
Absolutely.
Yes. But this is your first time on Knowledge for Wellness, and I would really like for you to tell my viewers a little bit about yourselves and your love and your passion and why you went into this line of work.
Sure. I didn't know anything about colon hydrotherapy about 10 years ago. And my daughter had issues. She was 2 and started having issues with her health.
Okay, at 2?
At 2. She
Wow.
was having a sore on her neck, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And we came in and figured out that it was her gut, and her gut was leaky gut spilling into her liver, and her liver was trying to release toxins.
Oh, okay.
And learning, it's like, well, what else don't I know? You know, let's start digging into this, because there has to be a reason for why there's this sore. And so that got me into learning more about the gut. And then I had a teacher that said, someone has to get into colon hydrotherapy here that I can help train and send people to. And so I'm like, what is colon hydrotherapy?
Sure. Wow.
Never heard of such a thing. So then I started checking into, and the doors just opened wide for me to come into this field. And I totally love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then, of course, your business partner, Barbara?
Yeah, I feel pretty blessed too. Well, my mother, she was pretty ill when I was a child, and she had a lot of mental problems, and she had some physical issues, and she died at a very young age. And so that got me on the path of integrative health care when I gave birth to my first child.
Okay.
And I really wanted to make sure that I was caring for her properly and with knowledge, grandma's wisdom, and helping her to stay healthy without always bringing her to the doctor and getting her medical attention with drugs and so forth. So I was really looking for more natural approaches.
Okay.
And then I started studying later on in life in the field of glycobiology, and that got me kind of excited when I realized how much happened in our gut and that life and death did really begin in the colon, and that the gut rests on the center of our emotional body. I was pretty amazed, and I just got involved, and I'm really happy I did. It's been a real blessing.
Wow, that's great. Well, of course, our first question is, what is colon hydrotherapy? When you think of this, I know about colonoscopies, that as a preventative measure also. But now this seems as if we're actually going to take it even a step above or in front of that, and to be aware of this as well. But if you could explain to my viewers exactly what colon hydrotherapy would be.
Go ahead.
Sure. It is a gentle bathing of the colon. I mean, that's
Okay.
the simplest term. We brush our teeth. We keep, the teeth, we hear about that a lot. We have to keep our teeth clean. Well, what about the colon? Colon is a lot more bacteria, and disruption happens in the colon. And so to bathe that, and just keep that clean as a preventative, and then bathing it when it becomes an issue as well.
Okay.
And so it's just gentle infusion of warm water into the colon.
Okay. So when you go ahead and do this procedure, what does it actually accomplish for that person that has actually had that?
Well, it really gives them a feeling of relief over the long haul, because people are usually pretty backed up, and to have that water flowing through the colon is very helpful for releasing gas and releasing a feeling of toxicity and releasing fecal matter and mucus and other things like that.
Okay. Well, then how would a person know that they would need, actually a colon hydrotherapy done, the procedure?
It's even people who have normal bowel movements can really benefit from colon hydrotherapy. We have a number of people who come in and are shocked at how much they can be released in the colonic, because people can have regular bowel movements, but still have a lot of stuff collected on the sides of their colon. And that colon, part of its job is to absorb water out, so things get dehydrated in there. And one of the only ways to get it hydrated and loosened to remove it is through colon hydrotherapy or doing enemas.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we get a lot of stuff out that's been sitting in that colon. And anytime something stays in the colon more than 24 hours, it then becomes toxic to the body. And the body has to deal with that as a toxic substance. And so if we can keep that colon clean and keep those toxins moved out, the body doesn't have to deal with that extra load and can work on, all the other jobs it has.
Because what we understand as a normal bowel movement, we talk about once a day. Okay, now you go to the other countries and it's like every time they eat, it projects bowel movement right away. But we're happy if we have one a day.
Well, we forget what it was like when we had, when we were little, and for the most part, babies move their bowels shortly after they eat every time. And we have pets, and we feed our dog once a day.
Yes.
And my dog moved his bowels 2 to 3 times a day on once a day. And I mean, people are similar, and we need to have that release of toxins in our. And it's just so interesting that we eat 2 to 3 times a day, and if we only go to the bathroom once a day, where are the other 2 meals?
Yes.
And part of our body's system, regulation system, is that when we chew, that actually activates our colon.
Oh.
And so we show the trick of when you go to the bathroom, if you pretend to chew, sometimes that will start movement in the colon. And so when we chew, that activates the body's system saying, I've just taken more food in, I need to make room for what's coming in, which then causes you to have that bowel movement after a good-sized meal.
Okay.
A snack isn't going to activate that movement. And if that communication is disrupted, then let's look at what's going on disrupting that communication, because that is the normal process of the body, is to eat and then within an hour to have a bowel movement.
Yeah, because we're hearing about all kinds of digestive problems, and a lot of people need to kind of maybe take a step back and even think about the foods that they're eating, even to help with that actual issue.
Yes, it's huge.
Yes.
The food we take in, is 90% of what's going to happen in the colon, in the digestive tract.
Yeah.
It so affects it.
So do you actually have someone with some issues that may have to go to a doctor, or what are some of the signs for that then? Just a lot of upset stomach?
People feel bloated, they feel gassy. Oftentimes, a lot of people have issues with they're not thinking clearly. They have foggy mental state. They have low energy. When you think about what's being sold over the counter at drugstores, the most that's being sold of all of the drugs is for digestive issues. A lot of people are dealing with digestive issues, and it's hard to get relief through a doctor because the issues aren't big enough to prescribe something necessarily. It's like, well, I have antacid, or I'm not thinking clearly, and I don't feel so good, and I'm only moving my bowels like once every other day or once every 2 days. And a lot of people are told that that's kind of their cycle, and it's okay. And I think we forget what it was like to be smaller and to be cleaner and to be more natural in terms of our health.
Yeah. That's what's the story with your daughter being 2. Already at 2, she probably had some, good eating habits with you, providing the food for her, and then yet her body was saying.
Right. She was sensitive to certain foods, and those foods were creating a reaction in her digestive tract. And we went in and did the food sensitivity test, where we went in and had her get pricked and get the food, and nothing showed up as allergic. So she wasn't allergic to anything specific, but she was sensitive. And so we had to figure out, and we went to a naturopath and had that tested out, which is a wonderful way. There's a lot of ways now that you can figure out what foods really affect you, because for one person, oranges may be a great food, but for another person, it really disrupts the gut.
Yeah. And even something as natural as an apple. I love to have apples. I have them in my car all the time. When my sugar starts to go down, they're durable, they stay a while. But then my husband, when he eats an apple, you know, he all of a sudden gets bloated and gassy, and he reacts to it, even though he doesn't have, you know, known as a food allergy type of thing.
One way you can test it is if you're taking your pulse and then you eat a food, and if your pulse changes within 5 minutes of eating that food, then you know your body's reacting to it.
Right.
And so it's a great way to see if it's a normal digestive, you know, or if your body has an issue with that food.
Right. Well, I love this concept of, you know, going in and having this done, because I have a girlfriend that she gets fuzzy-headed. And so she thinks she might be gluten intolerant, so we're trying that as well. And she's tried just so many different things. This sounds like such a great idea. So let's say she's going to come to your clinic. What should she expect, you know, by maybe doing a colon?
I want to speak on the serotonin levels, because serotonin is your happy hormone.
Okay.
And we have shown different studies that have shown that 300 times the amount, you get 300 times the serotonin level used in your gut to 1 in your brain.
Oh.
And so if your gut is off, you're using a lot of your serotonin in the communication of the gut synapses and the nerves endings. And so if your gut is off, all the serotonin levels are used in your gut, and you don't have enough for your brain. So a lot of people's fogginess or their depression or a lot of, you know, the brain issues are coming back to gut issues.
Oh my God.
And if you clean up the gut, usually you clean up the brain. And so it's amazing how people just come in foggy and just come, you know, walk out like, I can think again.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we would have that person come in and really go over their medical history and see what they want to accomplish. Because that's what we're there to do, is support them on their path. So we really look to see what they're looking to do. And we would recommend a number of colonics, you know, if they're open to that. Or we would start talking about foods.
Okay.
And we may start them with certain foods and start changing their diets if they're not quite ready to step into cleaning out the colon. Everything works faster if you start with the gut.
Yes.
And cleaning out the colon gives them a chance to think clearer, so they can, you know, figure out what they want.
Sure.
So sometimes we just want to start with that.
Sure.
So we take a look at where they're at.
Sure. And then you work with them.
Yeah, and most people are coming in. They're coming in for the colon hydrotherapy, and and they'll fill out their forms, and then they will opt for a pre-treatment. We have a pre-treatment that they can do if they choose to.
Okay.
And that consists of far infrared heat and chi movement with the chi machine, and music therapy, and music vibrating through the table that they're laying on, the massage table, and castor oil on the tummy with some peppermint and some lavender. And they would go into that session, and that's a 20-minute session. And if it's chilly outside, we cover them with blankets, and they have the 3 domes over them. And that's a wonderful, relaxing session that really helps people, especially first-timers, so they can relax before the hydrotherapy session.
Sure.
Keep all mind and body relaxed to release.
Yes.
That's great. I love this concept, because now it's also a trust issue, because, you know, someone comes in and, you know, people don't like to talk about, you know, colons. It's, you know, not our favorite topic, but it's very, very important that we, you know, actually talk about the actual whole body, because we can't just function with one part. We don't just function with our eyes or our mouth.
Exactly.
You know, it all works together quite well. And that